Hello, everybody, and welcome to Community Forum. My name is Ron Vecchia. We're here with me and the manager. That's the special edition of Community Forum. And the town manager is with me, Austin Faison. Austin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
I must say, the last few weeks, I have felt that we have moved the needle forward in many respects in the town of Winthrop. For me personally, it's been a year since I took over. We had an interim town manager that was going to take over. He decided no, so we had another interim town manager. Then we had the search for a permanent town manager. So we've been going through this whole process and trying to govern at the same time. So I must say, you know, since you've taken over at the helm, you've got two new appointees that just started. Things are finally settling down, and I really feel that we're starting to move forward the way we really should be. This past meeting, we voted on two important things, but before I get to that, it was also the annual fall forum, whereby the town manager and the town departments have an opportunity to, you know, bring forward like a report of where they're at for the town and maybe their goals and objectives for the next year. So why don't you maybe kind of backfill us in?
Sure.
On because you did a great presentation. I think the folks that attended, it was a different type of presentation that they're used to, and I thought it was very well received.
Great. So first off, thank you. I appreciate the kind words about what we've done so far since I've been here. I can't necessarily take credit for anything. I give credit to the department heads and the council. I'm just here to really be a conduit to help facilitate the operations of the government and work with you all in terms of appropriations of funds and setting some policies and bylaws to move Winthrop in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I came here and there was a fair amount of, I've been referring to it as low-hanging fruit or unacted upon plans, and I've been very lucky to benefit from things that were very, very close to the actionable phase. And it's been great to get some of these things moving in the right direction, get some of the wheels out of the mud, and really get to action. So I appreciate the initial comments that you said. In terms of my fall forum presentation, it was about an hour, almost a state of the town that I was trying to give. Mm-hmm. And I went through a few different topics that I wanted to publicly address so the public knew what my priorities were for the coming calendar year and how we're really going to enter the budget process. So I started with going through my management strategy because I feel like the council has seen it behind the scenes. My department heads have seen it, but I haven't really spoken about it publicly. So I talked about what my intentions are and objectives and how I can be objective about the community and the fact that I don't live here and I'm able to see things a little bit differently, but also help accommodate the community coming together to kind of compromise and make decisions. Mm-hmm. Then, and ultimately I didn't talk about this, but it's something that I always like to highlight is one of my management styles is I refer to it as management by walking around, but I've been trying to get out of my office as much as possible to meet people where they would like to meet, where they operate. I need to, now that some of my own meetings have started to die down a little bit in terms of some of my higher level priorities, I want to continue kind of getting myself out there and meeting more and more people around the community and the staff that works for me as well, because I want even the lowest level clerk to know who I am and feel like they can come say hi to me, and that if they have a problem, there are chains of command, but they're allowed to come and chat with me about things. From there, I talked about the financial position of the town, which is quite difficult to deal with right now. We're projected in the longer term to spend more than we bring in terms of revenue. So there will need to be a right sizing of the budget and our revenues and things like that. So I'm really trying to begin to speak publicly concerning the potential need for an override. There will be a need for a debt exclusion for a public safety building. We do have some money from the state on that, but trying to give a good sense of where we are financially. And then I talked about my upcoming fiscal budget process and how I would like to work with the finance committee starting in late February. But I also want to bring the town council into the fold of the budget presentation. So department heads will both have the opportunity to speak directly to the FinCom, but also the town council, advocating for their needs, but also discussing their plans for the upcoming fiscal year.
And I know you've asked for a new computer program.
Sure.
Can you kind of expand on that, the benefits of having something like that?
Absolutely. So I recently got appropriation for an operating system application called OpenGov. And what that does is, in the simplest terms, it does what my job was in Brookline for a significantly smaller cost. What it really does, though, is you can say this union group gets a 2% raise. And everyone who's tied to that union, you can say 2%, and it does a calculation to what their base salary is in the previous fiscal year and can apply it to the coming fiscal year. So you can automate a fair amount of the legwork that you would have to do in Excel. Okay. But what it will help us also do is better communicate the budget with the public. We can tell stories using visualizations of data directly from our budget. We can talk about how certain revenue streams have grown or how some of them have been reduced. We can talk about some of the financing issues that we have run into with certain departments, how we have a DPW who we could talk about their staffing levels, how their staffing has been reduced significantly over the past 10, 15 years. We could talk about how that has led to reduction of services and things like that. We can tell stories that instead of just looking just at the numbers, we can use the numbers to facilitate a story and add some context to it. So that tool is going to be great. Our new CFO is excited to use it. We've already started communicating with them and sending over some of our information, so we should be able to really be mucking around in there in the next couple weeks. I actually just got an email right before this introducing them to me. Then I went into major projects, which are Center Business District Middle School, Ingleside, those types of things we've talked about on this show previously. But the things that are really, they're not on the horizon, they're things that are coming right up in front of us, things that we will be working on in the next few years. Winthrop 2030 is something that I would really like to begin working on in January, February. Really a complete primer on what we're trying to do here for the next 11 years, talking about those longer term metrics in terms of jobs, housing units, payment condition index, a host of different metrics that we want to choose as a community, and then setting some real targets that can be aggressive targets. That's why you do an 11-year document. And then what we will do on a yearly or every 6 months, quarterly basis type of thing is we will discuss where we are in moving towards those targets. And that document, just like our budget, will be a forward-facing document, but just like the budget will be informed by the goals and objectives of the council, some of the goals and objectives of the budget should be then tied into the Winthrop 2030. That Winthrop 2030 document should be almost our guiding document, and then year to year, we're almost updating and talking about how we're moving forward on that. That then ties directly into metrics and transparency, which are of the utmost importance to me. We have data internally, and what I want to do is be able to communicate that to the public so that the public has the ability to decipher it as they see fit. I've seen this be successful in other communities, and I hope to do this with Winthrop. Our departments have data. What I need to help them do is figure out how to clean it up and put it out there publicly. And that will ultimately help us in terms of setting expectations and service level agreements with the community. And we will have the ability in the long term to know if we put X dollars towards project Y, we will get Z result. And that's the way we need to start thinking about things, is seeing more direct correlation between money spent and services provided. And we can only do that once we've really set the table of, here's what we're doing now with what we have. And if you put money here, here, and here, this is how it can raise the level of overall service. Then I gave my department heads the opportunity to give some updates, and we had a couple there. But it was, I think it was a good presentation, and I enjoyed doing it.
Good, good. Well, the CBD, we passed that. That is now something that we're going to proceed with, and I guess maybe by the early summer, we might see the first shovels in the ground. You mentioned something at the first meeting that was held. Councilor Peter Christopher held a precinct meeting for Precinct 5, which incorporated a lot of the businesses in the center and a lot of the feeder streets that come into the center, and which was very well attended. And they asked a lot of questions, or I should say, not as many questions as they usually had. I believe that we have made it a point to make this process as transparent as possible. One of the big criticisms we have gotten in the past is that people don't know what's going on, especially now with this project is going to be so intense for the next couple of years. It's going to impact the businesses, people that live down there, and so forth. But you answered a question about why we need this center business district rebuilt, infrastructure-wise, and it was about other things happening. Do you remember how you answered the question? It was that you wanted more businesses, you wanted people to be coming in. Could you kind of just go through that whole flow? Because
Sure.
it made so much sense. It made so much sense when you think about it, and it opened a lot of eyes to I saw a lot of heads nodding in a positive way.
Sure. So, the Center Business District and the middle school and Ingleside and things like that, it's a very dynamic system. There's infrastructure issues, there's above ground issues, but at the end of the day, you go down there and there's vacant properties. There's vacant business space in a place where it should be a vibrant economic square. So what we can do as a community is we set the table. We do the underground work. The underground work, we have known since the 1980s when you were a selectman that there was a need to do this infrastructure work. These are old, unsafe pipes that are not doing the jobs that they should be. What we can do as a community is we can get behind this project and we can fix what's under our control. And when we fix what's under our control, we can put people in the position to be successful in the longer term. And what I mean by successful in the longer term is that give the opportunity for people who own businesses there to make a decision about the modernization of their business. They can reinvest in their property and redo some of the buildings down there. The people who own properties but don't have businesses there can present more modernized underground facilities to potential developers who are looking to invest there. But what I do not want to see in the long run is a center business district that looks exactly the same as it does now. Winthrop will not continue to strive in the long term if there is not more people living here or more businesses operating here. This tax base that is set now needs to be expanded so that Winthrop can begin to modernize correctly. So I don't want any businesses in the Center Business District to fail, but what I want to give them is the opportunity to succeed. And in terms of success, it's foot traffic. So I need more people living there or more people working there to actually provide a sandwich shop, people to come buy sandwiches at lunch. I don't like how businesses that provide food are closed during lunchtime. One, because I like food and I want to eat at La Siesta for lunch. And I will not have that opportunity as long as the Center Business District looks the way that it does. But between the middle school site and the Center Business District, there needs to be some people there. There needs to be people who are working there and they come there on lunch. There needs to be people who come home from work who need to grab something on their way home who live above some of these businesses in the Center Business District. This only works if we give more people the opportunity to walk around there and really have it be a Center Business District. I want these businesses to have the ability to thrive and succeed, and they can't do that the way it's set up now. So we're going to do the legwork. We're going to tear up the roads. We're going to fix the water problem there, and we're going to shift the water to another part of the town, and we will facilitate that through another project at Ingleside. The nature of that project is still to be determined. We're working with our engineers. There's the underwater storage component. There could be a pump house. You could have some portion of the two type of thing. Mm-hmm. Everything's really on the table for Woodard and Curran, but I want to ultimately make the most prudent decision in terms of a water storage facility or water mitigation strategy for Ingleside Park that works best for the community and does not stymie them with longer term costs that come with it. Ultimately, though, this all ties back to the center business district. The businesses that are there now, I want them to succeed, and they can't succeed with the client base that they currently have. That needs to be expanded. So if it's a business that goes in or it's people living above them, they need the foot traffic there, because I went to the tree lighting ceremony last weekend and I had my daughter there, and you know, she can see that businesses are closed. It looks odd to her that at 5, 6 o'clock at night that places aren't open on a Friday night. That doesn't really make sense to her. And I want that to be a vibrant place that people come with their children, people come with their parents and things like that, and they walk around and it's business that are open and bright. Having businesses open and more foot traffic there gives a greater sense of safety. Even though Winthrop is already safe, it gives a greater sense of safety in that there's a large amount of people there. There's no reason to pickpocket anyone or anything like that. But it also, I want to draw people in there so they stay there, so they have a meal there, and then they go look at a little store and maybe buy some trinket or something like that, or maybe they get their hair done and then they have drinks afterwards. I want people to stay there, and this infrastructure will help do that. And as development comes, we don't know necessarily how the development will come. It will be waves and spurts and things like that. But I want this community to have the opportunity to be successful, and I think it can be successful if we do this underground work there and really set the table for people to come in and bring some businesses or apartments or condos or housing that ultimately leads to more people being there, because that's what we need.
And I think this is important for the whole town, not just the center. This
Absolutely.
investment is really for the whole town in general.
Absolutely. Winthrop is too small to think. I know there's neighborhoods. I know there's the Maze and the Highlands and the Point and all those different types of things. But your major economic center, this is like if Massachusetts did things and didn't take Boston into consideration. This is, it would be foolhardy to not have this be the place that we have, as it's called the Center Business District. This was not a thing that was prescribed upon it. It wasn't, it's French Square. It's supposed to be a place where people congregate and there's business. It was built that way. It was zoned that way initially. It used to be that way. And what I want to do is take a modern approach of mixed-use development there so that everyone from the community can come there and have a place to congregate. Once we're successful there, don't think we can't take it in different places of the town, but we can do a very good job of kind of setting the model for how we want the rest of the town to look if we have a vibrant center business district, and whatever happens with the middle school site and things like that. We can really make this a nice part of town, that it's a nice part to drive into. People can come and spend some money, because that's what we want them to do. Not just Winthrop people from outside as well. We'll gladly take their business.
I think another blank canvas really is the Shirley Street area, from Delby's Corner all the way down to the landing. I mean, that has potential down the road. I mean, it's already zoned for oceanfront development and so forth. And I think that's, you know, we're a seashore community. We should take advantage of the fact that we have a ferry, that we have all these different things that we could take advantage of.
Couldn't agree with you more.
You know, speaking from a kid that grew up down there, nothing much has changed in the last 50, 60 years. But just on the CBD, the Center Business District, you're forming a special committee at the town manager's level. Can you tell us a little about that and your goals and objectives there?
Sure. So based off the original vote that we had, that Councilor Eggman presented, there were some conditions that she was looking to have met. We talked about many of those, and many of those conditions are essentially a charge or an order to my office concerning this is prudent follow-up. And I'm forming a manager's committee. They will be officially appointed at the next council meeting. I'll have the language done. They will essentially have a finite amount of work that they will be working on in the first 90 days, and then their charge may change after the initial 90 days. But the real first things that they will be doing is working with Woodard and Curran concerning the project as it's stated now and the implementation of the plans that CBA presented concerning the landscape architecting, integrating those plans, some of that above ground work, and how do we want to best see that best play out. They will also direct the peer review process of the plans. So to get to 100% design, we are looking at still about another month's worth of work from Woodard and Curran, just kind of tightening everything up. We can have that peer reviewed as well. I'm giving this committee the authority to determine who that peer review firm would be. There's only a few very good firms that do that in this area, but they can cover some of those things that Councilor Eggman was looking at concerning climate change and modern engineering standards and things like that. They also will be dealing with a soft part of the construction phasing plan, and not necessarily the times and days of the week that things will be done, because that doesn't really come until we go through the bid process and we have a firm on board. That would lead to more change orders and difficulty in the long run. What they will be doing is working through what is a soft construction phasing plan. So in the first year, what is the phasing of the underground work that would happen on certain roads? In the second year, what is the phasing? Like, what sequence are we looking at? The sequencing can change, but what are we looking at as a project so then we can publicly start talking about it and helping the businesses and residents down there deal with some of the stuff that's going to happen down there. So those are the major things that they're going to be tasked with, but they have a great resource in the new assistant town manager, Dave Rodriguez. He has the land use legal background. He understands modern zoning and all these different types of things. He's going to be there to really facilitate this process. We're going to be setting up office hours for him in the Center Business District, just trying to figure out the best way to do that and what space he will be working out of. But that's going to be most likely starting in December, that he will be available to the public to have these conversations. And he will be the kind of clearinghouse for everything to do with the Center Business District going forward, because he's dealt with a project of this size previously in his career, but he also, I feel fully confident in him answering on my behalf and on behalf of the council when someone comes in and under a little bit of distress about individual impact that the project presents. So he will be working hand in hand with that committee to make sure that all of the questions that they have are answered and that they pursue the charge that I set forth. But it really is a Center Business District committee focused on the infrastructure project.
And it's going to be made up of folks that live there, businesses?
Business owners, people who live there. It's going to be 5 people, I believe, and it's trying to hit a few different places. Make sure, this goes back to my grad school, think of it as a key player list. Hit some of the key players in that area to make sure that we're hitting as much of the community has the ability to advocate and has someone who is advocating on their behalf. So they'll have meetings together, and some of them will be public. But I also will be having Dave give updates to the town council about the work that the committee's doing, and to my office, and then moving forward. Hopefully, maybe they will be transitioning to being a middle school committee, or we will be shifting Dave's focus to being a middle school committee and things like that. So, to be continued on that, but I'm very excited for this committee to getting to work, because the day I signed my contract was the first time I was really exposed to the council and some of the thoughts about the Center Business District process. I didn't necessarily know that it was going to get financed, and I'm excited by that. But what I'm really more excited about is the years and years of plans that you all have put into this coming to fruition. And if this plays out correctly and we bid out documents in March, get a response, we conceivably will be breaking ground in June. And that's going to be an exciting time for this town. And I think everyone who's worked on this should be proud of that, it's been years and years worth of meetings and discussions and hostility and votes and all those types of things. But ultimately, a decision was made, and now you're looking to move forward and start the work on the project, because it's always good to talk about the work being done, but once you get a shovel in the ground and you see the trucks moving things and stuff like that, it's a different type of feeling.
Right. Excellent, excellent. So 2 major things we discussed that are approved at the last town council meeting, and also that was the same night as the fall forum, was addressing the pilot program with Massport. And this has been a bone of contention for many years. People were saying, are we getting enough money, and so forth and so on. And certainly one of my priorities was to see if we could move the needle. And thanks to your help, we had a meeting with the senator and Bob DeLeo and asked for their assistance in getting this thing done. And now we achieved a modification of a 20-year contract, which ends in 2025. The original contract was $900,000 a year. In 2019, we'll receive an additional $300,000, and then on top of that, another $150,000 thereafter for each year up to 2025. So instead of ending the 20-year contract at $900,000, in that 20th year, we will have received $2 million, which was a boost. And I know that you've already have some ideas in your head to basically what we should do with some of that money. And I was wondering if you would want to expand on. I know
Sure.
you want to come up with a capital program for this town that we really need.
First off, it's just exciting to have Massport at the table and get a significantly larger sum of money in the long run. It's a good thing from the town, and it sets us in good position for the future when we go back and renegotiate after 2025, that we're starting with a base of $2 million and we move up from there. In terms of what to do with the additional money, I would very much like to set a fiscal policy concerning a long-range capital plan. I'm bringing in the Division of Local Services to help with fiscal policies. That's what I'm going to do with the financial management review process. Really, what I want out of it is some additional fiscal policies. And what we could do is, if we say that first year, it's $300,000. It's a portion of that $300,000, which we can decide will be a base amount to help fund a capital plan. Maybe we change our free cash policy, that instead of all of the money that goes into the capital stabilization going there, we may shift some of that into an actual capital plan. What I would like to do is set a 5-year plan of capital, so we know year 1 we're doing this, year 2 we're doing this, and you lay out the projects, you talk about the scope of them and the costs and the different funding sources, but we start looking longer term. Winthrop has consistently looked in the short term in the past, and I want to get out of the year to year, how do we make things work, into I'll make this year work, but this is what we're doing in the future. Because as I've said a lot of times, Speaker DeLeo is great, but Speaker DeLeo will not be doing his job for the rest of my life or my career. And it may be significantly shorter than that. So what I want to do is put Winthrop in the position to be able to take care of the capital needs that they have in the longer term. I don't want my successor here to have to go to the state to ask for things that the municipality really should be taking care of themselves. It's not that we don't appreciate the state coming in and helping us, and that relationship is amazing, and I love that we have it available. What I am talking about, though, is that relationship will go away someday, and we need to deal with the fiscal parameters of that. So this Massport money is a great source that we can use that's unprogrammed right now towards capital needs in the long run, and hopefully we have some additional funding sources that we can kind of pull off of to make a real robust capital plan in the future that can help, again, set the table for us to get the budget awards that I would like to do, with the transparency and things like that. It's not going to be year to year with capital anymore. It's going to be a longer term plan that we put together and is fully funded, so that everyone can kind of know when we're taking care of a park, when we're taking care of a playground, those types of things, instead of, do we know when that's going to fit in? Do we have enough money for it? I want to get away from that type of thing.
Well, we're up against the clock, so on that note, we're going to have to say goodbye. And we'll see you in another 2 weeks with the manager and me. Austin, thank you for being on the show again.
Thank you, Ron.
And we'll cover some more interesting subjects that the folks want to hear about.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Till next time, this is Ron Vecchia. See you then.